Birds are a group of warm-blooded vertebrates constituting the class Aves, characterized by feathers, toothless beaked jaws, the laying of hard-shelled eggs, a high metabolic rate, a four-chambered heart, and a strong yet lightweight skeleton. Birds live worldwide and range in size from the 5.5 centimeters bee hummingbird to the 2.8 m common ostrich. There are over 11,000 living species, more than half of which are passerine, or perching birds. Birds have wings whose development varies according to species. The only known groups without wings are the extinct moa and elephant birds. Wings, which are modified forelimbs, gave birds the ability to fly, although further evolution has led to the loss of flight in some birds, including ratites, penguins, and diverse endemic island species. The digestive and respiratory systems of birds are also uniquely adapted for flight. Some bird species of aquatic environments, particularly seabirds and some waterbirds, have further evolved for swimming. The study of birds is called ornithology. Birds are feathered theropod dinosaurs and constitute the only known living dinosaurs. Likewise, birds are considered reptiles in the modern cladistic sense of the term, and their closest living relatives are the crocodilians. Birds are descendants of the primitive avialans which first appeared during the late Jurassic. According to recent estimates, modern birds evolved in the late Cretaceous and diversified dramatically around the time of the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event 66 million years ago, which killed off the pterosaurs and all non-avian dinosaurs. Many social species pass on knowledge across generations, which is considered a form of culture. Birds are social, communicating with visual signals, calls, and songs, and participating in such behaviors as cooperative breeding and hunting, flocking, and mobbing of predators. The vast majority of bird species are socially monogamous, usually for one breeding season at a time, sometimes for years, and rarely for life. Other species have breeding systems that are polygamous or rarely polyandrous. Birds produce offspring by laying eggs which are fertilized through sexual reproduction. They are usually laid in a nest and incubated by the parents. Most birds have an extended period of parental care after hatching. Aves in a sister group, the order Crocodile, contain the only living representatives of the reptile clade Archosauria. During the late 1990s, Aves was most commonly defined photogenically as all descendants of the most recent common ancestor of modern birds and Archaeopteryx lithographica. However, an earlier definition proposed by Jacques Gautier gained wide currency in the 21st century and is used by many scientists including adherents to the phylocode. Gautier defined Aves to include only the Crom group of the set of modern birds. This was done by excluding most groups known only from fossils and assigning them, instead, to the broader group Aviali, on the principle that a clade based on extant species should be limited to those extant species and their closest extinct relatives. Based on fossil and biological evidence, most scientists accept that birds are a specialized subgroup of theropod dinosaurs and more specifically, members of Maniraptora, a group of theropods which includes dromaeosaurids and oviraptorosaurs, among others. As scientists have discovered more theropods closely related to birds, the previously clear distinction between non-birds and birds has become blurred. By the 2000s, discoveries in the Liaoning province of northeast China, which demonstrated many small theropod feathered dinosaurs, contributed to this ambiguity. Anchiornis huxleyi is an important source of information on the early evolution of birds in the late Jurassic period. The consensus view in contemporary paleontology is that the flying theropods, or avialans, are the closest relatives of the Deinonychosaurs, which include dromaeosaurids and trudentids. Together, these form a group called paravs. some basal members of Deinonychosauria, such as Microraptor, have features which may have enabled them to glide or fly. The most basal Deinonychosaurs were very small. This evidence raises the possibility that the ancestor of all Paravians may have been arboreal, have been able to glide, or both. Unlike Archaeopteryx and the non-avialan feathered dinosaurs, who primarily ate meat, studies suggest that the first avialans were omnivores. Over 40% of key traits found in modern birds evolved during the 60 million year transition from the earliest birdline archosaurs to the first maniraptoromorphs. The loss of osteoderms, otherwise common in archosaurs, and acquisition of primitive feathers might have occurred early during this phase. After the appearance of Maniraptoromorpha, the next 40 million years marked a continuous reduction of body size and the accumulation of neotenic characteristics. Hypercarnivory became increasingly less common while brain cases enlarged and forelimbs became longer. The integument evolved into complex, pinnaceous feathers. The oldest known Paravian fossils come from the Tayajian Formation of China, which has been dated to the late Jurassic period, about 160 million years ago. The avialan species from this time period include Anchiornis huxleyi, Zyatingia zengi, and Orornis sui. The well-known probable early avialan, Archaeopteryx, dates from slightly later Jurassic rocks from Germany. Many of these early avialans shared unusual anatomical features that may be ancestral to modern birds but were later lost during bird evolution. These features include enlarged claws on the second toe, which may have been held clear of the ground in life, and long feathers or hind wings covering the hind limbs and feet, which may have been used in aerial maneuvering. Avialans diversified into a wide variety of forms during the Cretaceous period. Many groups retained primitive characteristics, such as clawed wings and teeth, though the latter were lost independently in a number of avialan groups, including modern birds. Increasingly stiff tails can be seen in the evolution of Maniraptoromorphs, and this process culminated in the appearance of the pygostyle, an ossification of fused tail vertebrae. In the late Cretaceous, about 100 million years ago, the ancestors of all modern birds evolved a more open pelvis, allowing them to lay larger eggs compared to body size. Around 95 million years ago, they evolved a better sense of smell. The first large, diverse lineage of short-tailed avialans to evolve were the enanthromets, or opposite birds, so named because the construction of their shoulder bones was in reverse to that of modern birds. Enanthromets occupied a wide array of ecological niches, from sand-probing shorebirds and fish-eaters to tree-dwelling forms and seed-eaters. While they were the dominant group of avialans during the Cretaceous period, enanthromets became extinct along with many other dinosaur groups at the end of the Mesozoic era. Many species of the second major avialan lineage to diversify, the Eurynets, were semi-aquatic and specialized in eating fish and other small aquatic organisms. Unlike the enanthromets, which dominated land-based and arboreal habitats, most early Eurynets lacked perching adaptations and likely included shorebird-like species, waders, and swimming and diving species. The latter included the superficially gull-like Ichthyornis and the Hesperornithiforms, which became so well adapted to hunting fish in marine environments that they lost the ability to fly and became primarily aquatic. The early Eurynets also saw the development of many traits associated with modern birds, like strongly keeled breastbones, toothless, beaked portions of their jaws. Eurynets also included the first avialans to develop true pygostyle and a fully mobile fan of tail feathers, which may have replaced the hind wing as the primary mode of aerial maneuverability and braking in flight. Most studies agree on a Cretaceous age for the most recent common ancestor of modern birds, but estimates range from the early Cretaceous to the latest Cretaceous. Similarly, There is no agreement on whether most of the early diversification of modern birds occurred in the Cretaceous and associated with breakup of the supercontinent Gondwana, or occurred later and potentially as a consequence of the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event. This disagreement is in part caused by a divergence in the evidence. Most molecular dating studies suggests a Cretaceous evolutionary radiation, while fossil evidence points to a Cenozoic radiation. The discovery of Vagavis from the Maastrichtian, the last stage of the late Cretaceous, proved that the diversification of modern birds started before the Cenozoic era. The affinities of an earlier fossil, the possible Galliform Austenornis lentis, dated to about 85 million years ago, are still too controversial to provide a fossil evidence of modern bird diversification. In 2020, a Stereornis from the Maastrichtian was described. It appears to be a close relative of Galloanseri, the earliest diverging lineage within Neognathae. Birds live and breed in most terrestrial habitats and on all 7 continents, reaching their southern extreme in the snow petrel's breeding colonies up to 440 kilometers inland in Antarctica. The highest bird diversity occurs in tropical regions. It was earlier thought that this high diversity was the result of higher speciation rates in the tropics. However, studies from the 2000s found higher speciation rates in the high latitudes that were offset by greater extinction rates than in the tropics. Many species migrate annually over great distances and across oceans. Several families of birds have adapted to life both on the world's oceans and in them, and some seabird species come ashore only to breed, while some penguins have been recorded diving up to 300 meters deep. Many bird species have established breeding populations in areas to which they have been introduced by humans. Some of these introductions have been deliberate. The ring-necked pheasant, for example, has been introduced around the world as a game bird. Others have been accidental, such as the establishment of wild monk parakeets in several North American cities after their escape from captivity. Some species, including cattle egret, yellow-headed caracara, and gala, have spread naturally far beyond their original ranges as agricultural expansion created alternative habitats, although modern practices of intensive agriculture have negatively impacted farmland bird populations. Birds' diets are varied and often include nectar, fruit, plants, seeds, carrion, and various small animals, including other birds. The digestive system of birds is unique, with a crop for storage and a gizzard that contains swallowed stones for grinding food to compensate for the lack of teeth. Some species, such as pigeons and some psittacine species, do not have a gallbladder. Most birds are highly adapted for rapid digestion to aid with flight. Some migratory birds have adapted to use proteins stored in many parts of their bodies, including protein from the intestines, as additional energy during migration. Birds that employ many strategies to obtain food or feed on a variety of food items are called generalists, while others that concentrate time and effort on specific food items or have a single strategy to obtain food are considered specialists. Avian foraging strategies can vary widely by species. Many birds glean for insects, invertebrates, fruit, or seeds. Some hunt insects by suddenly attacking from a branch. Those species that seek pest insects are considered beneficial biological control agents, and their presence encouraged in biological pest control programmed. Water is needed by many birds, although their mode of excretion and lack of sweat glands reduces the physiological demands. Some desert birds can obtain their water needs entirely from moisture in their food. Some have other adaptations, such as allowing their body temperature to rise, saving on moisture loss from evaporative cooling or panting. Seabirds can drink seawater and have salt glands inside the head that eliminate excess salt out of the nostrils. Most birds scoop water in their beaks and raise their head to let water run down the throat. Some species, especially of arid zones, belong belonging to the pigeon, finch, mousebird, button quail, and bustard families are capable of sucking up water without the need to tilt back their heads. Some desert birds depend on water sources, and sand grouse are particularly well known for congregating daily at waterholes. Nesting sand grouse and many plovers carry water to their young by wetting their belly feathers. Some birds carry water for chicks at the nest in their crop or regurgitate it along with food. The pigeon family, flamingos, and penguins have adaptations to produce a nutritive fluid called crop milk that they provide to their chicks. Birds have evolved a variety of mating behaviors, with the peacock tail being perhaps the most famous example of sexual selection in the fishery and runaway. Commonly occurring sexual dimorphisms such as size and color differences are energetically costly attributes that signal competitive breeding situations. Many types of avian sexual selection have been identified. Intersexual selection, also known as female choice, and intersexual competition, where individuals of the more abundant sex compete with each other for the privilege to mate. Sexually selected traits often evolve to become more pronounced in competitive breeding situations until the trait begins to limit the individual's fitness. Conflicts between an individual fitness and signaling adaptations ensure that sexually selected ornaments such as plumage coloration and courtship behavior are honest traits. Since birds are highly visible in common animals, humans have had a relationship with them since the dawn of man. Sometimes, these relationships are mutualistic, like the cooperative honey gathering among honey guides in African peoples such as the Borana. Other times, they may be commensal, as when species such as the house sparrow have benefited from human activities. Several species have reconciled the habits of farmers who practice traditional farming. Examples include the Sarus crane that begins nesting in India when farmers flood the fields in anticipation of rains, and the woolly-necked storks that have taken to nesting on a short tree grown for agroforestry beside fields and canals. Several bird species have become commercially significant agricultural pests, and some pose an aviation hazard. Human activities can also be detrimental and have threatened numerous bird species with extinction. The most commonly cited human threat to birds is habitat loss. Other threats include overhunting, accidental mortality due to collisions with buildings or vehicles, longline fishing by catch, pollution, competition and prediction from non-native invasive species, and climate change.